Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. I got back from the desert in late August, 2 summers ago. The air in Ohio felt thick after the baked wind of Kandahar, the way warm honey clings to a spoon. I was 49 then, still carried myself like the surgeon I'd been, but inside I was tired down to the bone. First week home, I walked the perimeter of our yard every sunrise, just to remind my legs the ground stayed steady here. Cornfield to the east, 2-lane county road to the west, the house I'd bought in 03 squatting between them like a loyal dog. White siding, black shutters, roof that needed doing but could wait. Name's Jack. I fixed diesel engines at the quarry outside town. Union card, steady paycheck, no one breathing over my shoulder. My hands know their way around busted valves the way some men solve crosswords. Nights I clean the grit out from under my nails with the point of a pocket knife, rinse with bourbon, call it good enough. The VA docs say I should lay off the alcohol if I want the nightmares to back off. Docs can keep talking. Most nights the bourbon wins. Elaine, my wife, met me on that first day with a small flag in her hand like I was still on parade. She'd cut her hair short, honey-colored, swept off her neck. Looked good. Looked different. Hug felt polite, not hungry. I chalked it up to the crowd at the airport. Told myself passion needs room. She drove home, fingers tapping the wheel to some top 40 song. I stared out the window counting utility poles, smelling upholstery I didn't recognize. Lemon, something floral, trace of chlorine like a gym pool. I asked if she'd taken up swimming. She shrugged. Little laugh. Said she'd started keeping active. That was all. First month back, I kept busy. VA appointments, gear to box up, pension papers, mow the yard in straight stripes. Repainted the porch swing she claimed she loved. Nights we sat together on the couch and binged shows she said I'd missed. She'd rest her feet on the coffee table. Bright new sneakers, laces still clean. I watched her toes bounce to the laugh track and tried to picture her on a treadmill somewhere. I couldn't see it, but war trains you to accept new intel without argument. At least at first. Sundays we used to meet her mother for lunch. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, church gossip. Those Sundays shrank to quick drop-ins. Elaine said we should save gas, but gas hadn't gone up. When I offered to drive, she shook her head, said, "Mom understands." I didn't push. Didn't want to be that husband who checks mileage like it proves love. My own routine was simple. Up at 5, black coffee, no sugar, 30 push-ups on the kitchen tiles, palms slipping. Jog a mile down Route 12 before shift. At the quarry I'd stand in the engine bay, wrench singing, country radio leaking through rattled speakers. Men nodded, asked no questions. They'd sent care packages while I was deployed, beef jerky, notes from their kids. Good men. After shift I'd park my truck behind the VFW, slide onto a stool, sip 2 fingers of rye, sometimes 3. Old-timers would nod. We all carried our own deserts. Elaine started evenings at the rec center. Training, she said. I pictured yoga mats and women in pastel tops. Every night she came home later, smell of eucalyptus and vanilla covering something metallic, like copper pennies in a wet fist. She'd kiss my cheek, lukewarm. Eat salad, no dressing. Showered twice. Sheets rustled when she turned her back to me. I stared at the ceiling fan and counted rotations until dawn. One Thursday, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. The screen lit. Unknown number, then another. I didn't touch it. Not my style. But I felt the vibration through the table, small animal thumping to get out. When she came down wrapped in a towel, she saw the caller ID history, glanced at me. I kept my face blank. She slid the phone away like a dealer palming a marked card. Said, "Spam calls, they never stop." Her voice came fast, brittle. I nodded. Let it drop. Sand still rattled in my boots from Afghanistan. I saved my energy for what mattered. Friday, I grilled ribs. She said no meat. Trainer had her on macros. I ate alone on the deck, cicadas whining in the soybeans. Inside, I heard her laugh, light, practiced, into her phone behind a closed door. Sound carried through window glass. She said, "Tomorrow, same time." Pause. "He won't mind." Another pause. I watched sauce drip from bone to plate, brown lines spreading like a crack in plaster. I cleaned the dishes, set the house alarm, climbed into bed. She joined after midnight, foam still glowing in her hand. The screen face down. Morning after, I oiled my shotgun in the garage just for the rhythm. Not loaded, just have it. Leather smell of the sling, soft click of metal on metal. Steadying. Elaine poked her head in, gym bag on shoulder. "Don't forget we have the Miller wedding next month," she said. I nodded without looking up. She left a lipstick print on the doorframe, scarlet mark against white paint. When the engine of her SUV faded, I set the barrel down, wiped fingerprints. At night I started dreaming in fragments. Convoy roads, cracked asphalt, Elaine's voice calling cadence over the radio instead of my CO. Woke up sweating, sheet twisted. She wasn't beside me. Bathroom light off, closet empty. 10 minutes later, front door clicked and she eased in, thought I was asleep. Quilt lifted, her breathing slow, like someone counting. I wanted to ask. Instead, I mended the fence around our backyard. Dug out rotted posts, replaced them with pressure-treated pine. Hammered nails so hard the heads buried deep, wood splintered. Neighbors drove by, raised hands. I wiped sweat with the back of my arm. Nodded, kept swinging. War taught me that building something solid feels close to prayer when you can't find the words. One evening after my shift, I found the garage door half open. Elaine's gym bag lay on the floor, zipper gaping. A sports bra hung from the pocket. Sweat dark. Smell of cologne I didn't wear. I picked it up, thumb brushing fabric, then set it back like evidence. Closed the garage, locked it. Went inside. Fried 2 eggs, ate standing up. She came home flushed, hair damp. Kissed my shoulder. I tasted mint gum, not sweat. She said, "How was your day, soldier?" Nobody had called me soldier in years. I told her engines ran, sky didn't fall. She smiled, thin. Said she was too tired for supper. Went straight to shower. That night I lay on the couch, pretending to watch a ball game. The TV showed pixels more than players. Elaine passed behind me in a robe, foam glued to her palm. She laughed at something on screen, then saw me watching. Laughter shut off like a tap. She asked if I needed anything. I shook my head. She drifted upstairs. I switched off the set and listened to the house click and settle, the sound old oak makes when it remembers storms. By September, the daylight slipped sooner, shadows long across the living room floor. I noticed a new key on Elaine's ring, red plastic cover. Asked what it opened. She said the gym gave lockers to regulars. Showed me a laminated tag with her membership number. I nodded. She tucked the keys away, knuckles white. I told the guys at work I might take overtime, save up for a fishing boat. Truth. Money wasn't the point. Hours spent under a Cummins block kept thoughts from wandering where they shouldn't. Grease cuts stunned less than suspicion. At the time that felt like control. One Saturday near dawn, I woke to find her side of the bed empty again. House silent. I walked barefoot to the kitchen. Car keys still on the hook. Her slippers gone. Outside, mist hugged the yard. She stood in the driveway in leggings, phone pressed to her ear, speaking low. I watched through the screen door. She said, "Yeah, he's asleep." I left early. She listened, nodded, toe tracing circles in gravel. Then, "Love you too." Words clear as church bells. She ended the call, shivered, tucked phone in waistband. Turned, saw me, jumped, forced a smile. "Didn't mean to wake you," she whispered. I opened the door, cool air slipped in. "Coffee?" I asked. She said she'd grab one on the way. Jogged to the SUV, engine turned, taillights blood red on the dawn. I didn't wave. After she left, I brewed a pot, drank 2 mugs, didn't taste a thing. Then I walked to the closet, dragged my duffel from under stored blankets. Inside, desert sand still lined the seams. I pulled out the handheld radio I'd kept. Taliban chatter long gone, batteries corroded. I cleaned the terminals, popped in fresh AAs. Static hissed to life. Range was maybe a mile, enough for a house and a gym parking lot. I set it on the workbench beside a spool of insulated wire, stared until the coffee jitters steadied. Back pockets of my jeans felt heavy though they were empty. Before lunch I drove into town for supplies. Bought plywood, screws, a cheap motion sensor camera from the farm store. The cashier made small talk about bow season. I nodded, said nothing. Loaded the truck, headed home, radio murmur filling the cab like wasps in a jar. My pulse kept time with the static. Elaine's SUV wasn't in the driveway. House smelled lemon clean, windows cracked open. On the fridge a sticky note. Back late, meal prep with Jen. Jen lives in Florida. The note curled at the edges like it knew. I carried the plywood to the old shed out back, the one we never finished turning into a guest room. Inside, dust motes floated in stripes of light from gaps in the roof. I set up a folding chair, laid tools on a crate, closed the door. The shed felt right. Half forgotten, out of her line of sight. Desert quiet. Only squirrels in the rafters for company. I spent the afternoon rigging the motion sensor to the shed entrance, wired the radio to a recorder I'd used during patrol debriefs. Old tech, reliable. When the sensor tripped, the recorder would start, catch any nearby radio traffic. Simple net. Sometimes the old ways work. Sunset bled orange over the cornfield when I finished. My shirt stuck to my back, wrists grimy. I washed under the spigot, watched brown water swirl into grass. Inside the house Elaine still wasn't back. I microwaved canned soup, ate it straight from the bowl. Phone vibrated with a message from her. Running late. Don't wait up. No punctuation. I thumbed oak, hit send. Screen lit, went dark. I stared at the blank glass until my reflection blurred. Upstairs I opened the bedroom window. Night air carried faint music from some distant barn party. Guitars, laughter, muffled by miles. I lay on my back, let the ceiling fan spin. Thought about the convoy under moonlight, the way we'd kill the headlights to avoid drawing fire. Trust the lead driver's night vision. Silence kept you alive. Here, silence was something else. A vacuum. A question mark. I drifted somewhere between waking and sleep until tires crunched the driveway. Headlights swept the wall. Clock read 1:37 a.m. Front door creaked. Soft footsteps. Her shape in the hall light, pausing outside the bedroom like she'd lost the will to turn the knob. Then she came in, slipped shoes off, eased into bed without brushing teeth. Smelled of soap and a cologne I couldn't fix to a brand. Just knew it wasn't mine. Her breath slow, even. She slept easy. I faced the dark, eyes open, counting heartbeats until dawn painted the walls gray. Next morning, she kissed my cheek, said she had a double session at the gym, would be gone most of the day. I packed my lunch pail, headed for the truck. As I pulled out, I watched her in the mirror. She stood by the garage tapping her phone, smile small and private, like she'd just received a joke meant only for her. The road bent, hid the house from view. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. At the quarry, the foreman asked if I wanted holiday overtime. I said yes. Anything to stay out of that house until the walls could forget her new scent. Grease under my nails, diesel in my lungs, steel song in my ears. That part of life still made sense. Machines break. Men fix them. Time passes. I used to think coming home was the final mile. That after you survive the roadside bombs and the sandstorms, life hands you a medal and says rest easy. Turns out the road just changes names. You get new maps, different checkpoints. The enemy doesn't always carry a rifle. Sometimes she keeps her hair perfect and her lies simpler than breakfast. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back then, in those weeks after deployment, I was still just a man standing in his own kitchen, pretending the floor didn't feel like it might crumble. I told myself marriage has seasons. People grow. Told myself I was seeing patterns where none existed. Kept my mouth shut, kept working, kept loving her the way muscle memory tells a soldier to keep breathing even when the mask cracks. But some mornings, when the rooster just started up and the dew soaked my boots, I'd look at the house. Yellow porch light, curtains drawn, and feel a thin line split down my chest, quiet as frost on glass. I knew enough about fractures. Give them time and pressure. They widen on their own. So I waited, and the house waited with me. I started noticing the little gaps the second week of September, around the time the corn turned brown, and the mornings carried that metallic bite that says winter's cooed up in the wings. The first nudge came at 6:12 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the time because the coffee maker beeped, one of those digital chirps you can't ignore. Elaine was already dressed. Black leggings, tight racerback top, bright pink trim I'd never seen in the laundry basket before. She poured herself a travel mug, no sugar, 2 shakes of cinnamon, same every day. Then she set another mug beside it. Same size, same cinnamon. I said, "You expecting company?" She jumped like I'd slapped the counter, then smiled too quick, tapped the lid. "For Jen," she said. "She picks me up now, saves me driving. Jen's in Florida, 4 states south. She moved there last year when her kid took a job at NASA." I pictured Elaine's phone log, the unknown numbers, the late texts. I let it ride, sipped my own coffee. It tasted thin. That afternoon the quarry shut down early, mechanical inspection. I swung by the rec center to surprise her, maybe catch lunch. Front desk girl in a hoodie checked a clipboard, said there was no Elaine Atkins, booked with a trainer today. Maybe she canceled. She offered, chewing gum. I nodded, thanked her, walked out. Sat in the truck a while, engine off, windows rolled up, heat building. My hands rested on the wheel at 10 and 2, the way I taught recruits during convoy drills. A bead of sweat trickled behind my ear. I waited for a story to materialize, something that made sense of the clipboard. Nothing came. Next day, she left her gym pass on the nightstand. Plain white card. Barcode, her name. I flipped it over. Expiry. December last year. 9 months out of date. I stared at the dull laminate until the edges swam. When she returned that night, another double session. I laid the card on the kitchen table between us. She froze, opened her mouth, closed it. Finally said the system was slow updating. She paid cash. I nodded like that added up. She was already reaching for the dish soap, turning to scrub a spotless glass. I watched her wrists flex, thin blue vein ticking like a metronome. Thursday I got off shift and decided to follow instinct, not orders. Parked the truck a block from the strip mall, where the rec center squatted next to a nail salon. Waited. At 5:07 p.m. Elaine's SUV rolled in, eased past the main entrance, kept going to the service lane out back. She killed the lights before the turn. I left my engine running just long enough for her to disappear, then coasted, headlights off, until I had line of sight. She parked beside a nondescript gray pickup, plates from Indiana. Both driver doors opened. A tall guy stepped out, hooded sweatshirt, athletic build, beard trimmed close. My eyes fixed on his hand resting casual on her lower back as they walked toward an unmarked side door. She laughed at something he said, head tilted, ponytail swinging. The door closed behind them. I sat there 30 minutes, pulse slow, breath steady. Part of me expected rage, a spike, a howl, but what came instead was a cool, spreading quiet, like the hush inside a bunker wall, when you know the artillery won't reach. I wrote his plate number on a gas receipt, tucked it in the sun visor. Then I drove to the VFW, ordered 2 ryes straight, left both untouched, just watched condensation slide and collect until it dripped onto the brass rail. That night I didn't mention the pickup. We lay in bed, Darkness between us like fresh concrete. She asked about my day. I said, engines ran. She hummed, already turning away. Somewhere past midnight, a train horn blew 5 miles east. She murmured a name, too soft to catch, and I felt her shoulders shake once, like from a dream or a laugh. I stared at the ceiling, counted debt, the hours I'd spent sandbagging, the birthdays I'd missed, the promises I'd taken on faith. Saturday morning, the kids' walkie-talkie crackled in the hall closet. Our son, Joshua, left it years back when he ditched Boy Scouts for Xbox. Batteries should have been dead, but life has a way of powering the wrong things at the wrong times. I was tightening the hinge on the cellar door when the static popped. Then her voice came through, clear as a confession. He asleep. Another voice, male, lower pitch, replied, Yeah, you safe. What are you wearing? She laughed, soft, breathy. Said something about pink. I shut the drill, walked to the closet, eased the door open. The walkie lay on a shelf among winter coats. I picked it up, thumb over the speaker, heard only my own pulse. Her voice again. He's still all tense. The man said, Guys wired. Combat boys don't relax. She sighed into the mic, a sound I'd never heard directed at me. The drill in my other hand felt suddenly silly, wrong tool for the task at hand. I set it down gentle, closed the closet, walked outside. I stood under the maple tree we planted the year Josh was born. Leaves already edged gold. Wind pushed them around like spare change. I listened to branches creak. Let the house hum behind me. 10 minutes, maybe 20. When I went back in, she was in the kitchen, phone in one hand, spatula in the other, flipping pancakes she wasn't going to eat. She smiled too wide. Brunch? She asked. I nodded, poured coffee, burned my tongue on purpose just to feel something sharp. Sunday, she suggested church. We haven't been since the flood fundraiser in 18. Pastor preached family values, forgiveness, the usual. She squeezed my hand during hymns, nails digging a little, like she wanted to anchor the picture for onlookers. Outside, after service, old Mrs. Callahan hugged Elaine, slipped her a folded note. I caught a sliver of handwriting. Praying for you both. Elaine stuffed it in her purse. Eyes wet. She said allergies. We drove home in silence. Next week I took leave, told the foreman VA wanted more tests. Spent 3 days booking private investigator software. Nothing fancy, just public record pulls, phone reverse lookups. Cross-checked the Indiana plates, registered to a Russell Keene, age 32. Licensed personal trainer, minor assault charge plea bargain down 6 years ago. Address listed an extended stay motel on Route 6. I drove by the lot, spotted the gray pickup, same dent on the tailgate. Window curtain up on the second floor, room light off. Cigarette butts lined the curb in neat rows. Soldiers count patterns. Patterns tell you how long an enemy's been in place. Looked like weeks. Wednesday night, Elaine said her trainer suggested a new meal plan. She'd shop after session. I said fine. I'd rewire the porch light while she was gone. She kissed me quick, keys jangling. I watched her taillights vanish, then pulled a small bolt cutter from the toolbox, walked to her closet. Locker tag hung off the gym key, 18B. I clipped the ring, pocketed the tag. 30 minutes later I entered the rec center. Public hours, no ID check. People busy with treadmills. I found the hallway of lockers, cheap metal painted beige. Section B, row 18. The padlock looked sturdy, combination type. Tag matched. I knelt, dialed random numbers. No luck. Felt the urge to punch through the sheet metal, resisted. Instead I slid a slim gem from the truck kit into the latch gap. Pressure, twist. Lock popped. Door swung. Inside, deodorant, water bottle, rolled towel, and a pink Victoria's Secret bra, size and style matching Elaine's drawer. No sweaty gym clothes, no membership card. Just that. Bra smelled faintly of the cologne I traced on her pillow. I took my phone, snapped a photo, closed the door, reset the lock, walked out. Nobody looked twice. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, lights off, phone face down, bright image seared in my head. At 9:27 p.m., she came through the door, greeting me with a breezy "Hey babe," grocery bag in hand. Kale, oat milk, protein tubs. I asked how the session went. She said killer, rubbed her quads theatrically, wandered to pour sparkling water. I pictured her locker, the neat arrangement, the trophy on display. Funny thing. My heart didn't race, hands didn't shake. Combat had taught me to triage emotions the way you plug leaks in a Humvee's fuel line. Quick, clean, no fuss. When she went upstairs, I downloaded the audio from the walkie to my laptop. Static, then voices. Saved the file twice, labeled it Proof 1 and Josh Radio. Opened a new folder, named it Truth. Dragged the locker photo in. Then I opened an old spreadsheet template from deployment, risk assessment chart, and started cataloging. Date, time, evidence, next action. The pattern looked clearer on a grid, less like life, more like mission parameters. Something in that structure let me breathe again. Friday afternoon, I met Eddie from the sheriff's office at Moe's Diner. Eddie and I served together before he went into law enforcement. Over black coffee, he asked how civilian life was treating me. I slid the plate number, the motel address, asked informal about character. Eddie tapped the paper, said he couldn't dig official without cause, but off the record, watch your back. Told me rumors. Keen fired from 2 gyms for conduct, settlements sealed. I paid the bill, left $2 tip, shook his hand. A soldier knows a warning when he hears one. That evening, Elaine came home early, hair damp, smelling of hotel shampoo, not eucalyptus. She found me on the couch, baseball muted on TV. She sat, tucked legs under herself like a teenager, laid her head on my shoulder. Said she missed me, asked if I wanted to take a beach trip, just us. October water's cold in Ohio, but I said maybe. She traced a circle on my knee, nails light. I asked how Jen was. She froze half-second, then said Jen might visit for Thanksgiving. I nodded, eyes on the silent screen where a batter struck out swinging. Her hand drifted away. That night in the bathroom, I noticed purple bruises on her hips, shape of fingertips. She caught me looking. Said deadlifts, new technique. I touched one. Gentle. She winced. I nodded. End of conversation. Saturday, I drove Josh's old radios to the shed, wired them into a fresh recorder loop, extended range with a homemade antenna. Ran power off a trickle solar panel. Spent 2 hours testing. The walkies triggered recording, the second channel opened. I sat on the folding chair, heard nothing but cicadas and my own breath. But knowing the trap was set felt like stacking sandbags. Quiet work, solid result. Elaine texted she'd be late again. Meal prep ran over. I replied, "Oak." 8 minutes later, the recorder picked up her walkie frequency, her voice laughing. Then softer, intimate. I let it run. Around midnight, she climbed into bed, body radiating showered heat. I pretended sleep. She whispered, "Love you," to the dark, not certain enough to say my name. I kept breathing steady. After her breathing evened out, I rolled to my back, stared at the ceiling, and felt the crack inside widen just a fraction more. Clean and silent. Sunday noon, I grilled burgers, her favorite jalapeno cheddar. She picked at lettuce, said red meat upset her macros. I asked how long macros outranked taste. She shrugged, eyes on her phone. I asked if she wanted me to drive her to training next time. See the place. She said clients aren't allowed visitors. Liability. I nodded, flipped a patty, grease hiss masking my pulse. Later I checked the bank statement. 200 every Wednesday labeled ITIFELC. Our joint credit card, but she'd signed the slip. I called the number, voicemail, generic male voice, no company greeting. I saved that too. Proof 2. That evening I sat on the porch with a beer, watched sunset burn down behind the silo. Elaine came out, leaned on the rail, said the evening light made everything look peaceful. I said, "It does." She asked what I was thinking. I told her engines, torque values, nothing she'd want to hear. She smiled, thin, went inside. When the sky went black, I stayed put, beer gone warm, listening to night insects. Eventually lights in the house switched off room by room. I closed my eyes and pictured the spreadsheet. The folder named Truth, the empty columns waiting. Tomorrow, I decided, I'd fill another row. Better to collect every shard before the glass hit the floor. A soldier doesn't lift his rifle until the target is painted clear. Inside the shed, the recorder's red light blinked steady, capturing the silence, ready for the next whisper. And I sat in the dark, breathing the cool October air, letting suspicion harden into certainty one quiet minute at a time. Tuesday after work, I turned onto Route 6, same as every day. But this time I didn't pass the motel. I pulled in. The gray pickup was gone. Spaces empty except one beat-up Civic. Curtains in 212 were open an inch. Lamp on. I took the stairs slow, boots soft. No plan to kick in a door, just needed eyes. Outside 212, I heard a man singing off-key. Simple man. Skynyrd. Shower running. Something metallic clinked, maybe a wristwatch hitting porcelain. I stepped back, kept breathing, and walked the hall until I reached the ice machine. Punched it once so the rattle masked my retreat. Back in the truck, I wrote a line in the spiral pad I kept on the dash. 212, 1800 hours. Subject alone. Pickup absent. Facts soothe better than whiskey. Next morning, the walkie in the shed chirped at 4:47. Her voice floated through frost. "Be there in 20, got the stuff." Mail reply. Half asleep. "Door'll be open." She giggled, yes giggled, a sound I hadn't heard from her since Josh won County Little League. I lay in bed, stared at the ceiling, waited for her to slip out. She moved quiet, but I know how floorboards speak. Front door closed, SUV rolled away. I got up, brewed coffee. Black. No mug for anyone else. I sat at the kitchen table and let memory run a loop. First date at Pete's Drive-In. Her mouth stained cherry from the slushy. The day we signed on this house, and she danced across the empty living room. The night she cried when deployment orders came through and promised she'd write every day. All of that stacked like photos in a shoebox, edges bending. By 7 I was in the shed replaying the latest audio. Male voice. "You tell him yet?" Her. "Not stupid. He's still paying the bills." Paper-thin laugh. Then a whisper, words sliding under my ribs. "Besides, Josh thinks Russ is just my friend. That's easier for everyone." Russ. So the pickup had a name. I burned the recording onto a thumb drive, slipped it into my wallet behind the photo of Josh at age 5 chasing a kite. The moment I touched that picture, something cold flashed through me. I fished the photo out, flipped it over. Elaine's handwriting on the back. Our miracle, 9 pounds 3 ounces. I'd seen it 100 times, never noticed the faint second line where the pen must have paused. Looks just like. Then a scribble, ink dug hard, word blacked out. How had I missed that? My hands went numb. I drove to the pharmacy in town. Bought 2 home DNA kits. Cash. Clerk raised an eyebrow. I said my brother was doing a genealogy project. Back home, I rummaged through Josh's bathroom for his old toothbrush, bristles frayed. Slipped it in a bag. Took my own from the cup. Swabbed, sealed, signed anonymous numbers on the labels. Mailed them from the drop box outside county offices. 3-day turnaround, the flyer promised. Technology moves quicker than trust. That night, Elaine cooked salmon, candle on the table. Said we needed us time. She poured white wine, told stories from the gym, clients who couldn't stick to macros. I listened, nodded, forked fish I couldn't taste. Her phone buzzed. She flipped it face down. Screen lit, her eyes blue against the dark. I asked about Josh's college fund. She blinked, caught off guard. Said it was fine, auto draft same as always. I'd canceled the draft 2 weeks earlier. She hadn't noticed. I added another tally to the ledger in my head. I washed dishes, stacked them too hard so porcelain rang. She touched my elbow. You okay? I said, just tired. She leaned up, kissed the scar near my ear, the one from shrapnel. Lips lingered like she was searching for something that used to be there. I dried my hands, walked out to the porch, left her in the kitchen with the soft hum of the fridge. Thursday evening, gray pickup back at the strip mall. I parked 2 rows over, angle where I could see but not be seen. They came out the side door laughing, her hand tugging his sleeve like a teenager. She wore a hoodie of his, logo Keen Fitness. I'd never seen it in our laundry. They kissed by her car, not rushed, not guilty. Then she dug into her bag, handed him a small envelope. He thumbed the edge, nodded, slid it into his back pocket. Money. I felt my jaw clench hard enough teeth squeaked. She drove off first. He waited, then lit a cigarette, blew smoke at the stars. I snapped photos. Face, plate, envelope. My hands were steady, like at the range. Back home, I printed the shots, stapled them to a fresh sheet in the folder. Under each picture I wrote time, location, context. At the bottom of the page, objective, confirm paternity. Friday the DNA email hit at 14:06 while I was under a dump truck hood. I climbed out, wiped grease, opened it. 0.06% probability of paternity. Statistical match. None. The numbers swam, but the meaning was laser clear. Josh, my boy who calls me dad, who I taught to cast a line and change a tire, was, by blood, someone else's. I didn't brake, just sat on the bumper, engine ticking cool, and breathed. Memory ran. Josh's first step toward me. First foul ball he sent over the fence, the handshake he gave the recruiter when he said maybe ROTC. None of those dissolved. Blood's an accident of biology. Raising a kid is deliberate repetition. Even so, a piece inside me folded quiet, like a tent packed after a storm. Still damp, but you put it away. After shift I drove to the elementary school grounds, parked where I could see the bleachers. I called Josh at college, asked how econ was treating him. He joked about 8 a.m. classes, thanked me for the care package. His voice was deep now, man's voice, but the laugh was 5 years old. I told him I was proud. He said, "Love you, Dad." Hung up. I sat until the sun slid behind goalposts. Back home the house was empty. Elaine had texted, "Lake, girl night." I walked room to room. Her closet door ajar, shoes scattered like she'd rushed. A framed photo of us on our wedding day leaned face down on the dresser. She must have knocked it earlier. Glass cracked diagonally. I lifted it. Behind the frame a folded sheet slipped free, landed under the dresser. I crouched. Letterhead from Street Luke's OB/GYN. Date: March 15, 2006. 2 months before Josh's birth. Blood type results. Father section. Blank. At the bottom. Note: patient declined partner testing. I slid the letter into my back pocket, heart not racing. Just a slow drum. Went downstairs, grabbed the bottle of rye, poured 2 fingers, stared at the liquid until reflections blurred. She came in at 23:11. I know because the wall clock chimed once. She looked surprised to see lights on. "You're up?" I nodded. She smelled of beer, not wine. Sweat sweet under perfume. Hoodie gone. Necklace I'd given her for our 10th missing, neck bare. She asked if I'd eaten. I said yeah. She hovered like she wanted to bridge the gap, but didn't remember how. Silence pushed between us like insulation. Finally she kissed my hair, told me good night. Her footsteps up the stairs sounded uneven. I sat until the bottle was half. Then I rose, walked to the shed. Recorder still blinking. I rewound the last hour. Her voice. "He's working late. We're clear. Russ. When you gonna drop the old man? Her. Soon as I get my half. Court's easy when he's nuts. Russ laughed. PTSD payday. She laughed with him. Then static end. I copied the file, labeled it Proof 3. Saturday dawn, raw and wet. Elaine claimed migraine, stayed in bed. I drove to my lawyer buddy, Nick, the one who handled wills for vets pro bono. Dropped a sealed envelope. DNA result, photos, audio transcript. Told him to keep it secure. He asked if I wanted to talk. I said maybe later. On the way home, the sky cracked open, rain pounding so hard wipers lost the fight. I pulled over, hazard lights blinking, and laughed. A long, quiet laugh that didn't feel like mine. Everything I'd built was washing, but I was dry inside the cab, windows fogged, engine humming oil. I angled the rear-view mirror, looked myself in the eye, saw the line between the man who fights wars abroad and the man who keeps peace at home snap like an overstretched cord. Didn't flinch. Rain eased. I drove to the motel, parked under a flickering light. Knocked on 212. Russ cracked the door, shirtless, surprised. I said, "You drop this." Held out the bra photo printout. When he reached, I squeezed his wrist, stepped close enough he smelled the diesel on my jacket. "You and me, we're gonna talk," I said. Voice calm, the way you say safety off before a breach. His eyes flicked left, right. No backup. He tried to jerk free. I tightened. Bones shifted under skin. I didn't hit him. Not yet. Just gave the numbers. Plate, motel, assault charge. Told him I owned the recording. Told him if my wife's heart stopped tomorrow, the file would still hit the sheriff's desk. He said, "What do you want?" Sweat beaded at his hairline. I said, "Nothing for now. Just clarity." Let him go. Turned, walked away. Behind me the door shut fast. Lock clicked twice. Back home, Elaine sat at the table scrolling her phone. Eyes puffy, fake tears maybe. I hung my jacket, mud dripping. She asked where I'd been. Errands, I said. She saw the dirt, nose wrinkled. "Could you take those boots off?" I kicked them off, soles smacked tile. She flinched. I poured coffee, black, sat across. She opened her mouth, closed it. Silence stretched, knitting itself tight enough to choke. Finally, she said, "We need to communicate." I looked at the ceiling, pretending to weigh the idea. Then I nodded once. She brightened, started talking. Vacations, counseling, fresh start. Words tumbled like pennies down a chute, clinking but amounting to spare change. I drank coffee, watched steam fade. Mid-sentence she paused, eyes narrowing. "You're awfully quiet," she said. I shrugged. "Listening." She pushed hair behind ear. "Do you still love me?" The question floated, fragile. I rotated my mug, saw the tiny chip at the lip, remembered we bought this set the year Josh started kindergarten. I set it down careful so it wouldn't crack further. Then I said, "Does it matter?" Her face drained color. She whispered, "It matters to me." I let the words sit, no answer, just the hum of the fridge and the clock ticking like small artillery. She stood, palms on table edge. "What do you want from me?" I considered, really considered. Finally said, "Truth, beginning to end." Voice even, volume low. She swallowed, glanced at the stairs, as if Josh might appear though he was 200 miles away. She started to speak, mouth shaping the story. I raised my hand, gentle stop. Later. I stood, grabbed my boots, headed for the door. Outside the evening smelled of wet leaves and cold metal. I walked to the shed, closed myself in. The recorder's red light blinked, waiting. I pressed stop, then play, listened to her laughs again, each one a nail clicking into pine. I thought about nails, about boards, about how easy it is to build something crooked when the first stud is off by half an inch. 20 years we framed this life. Now every wall leaned. I slid to the floor, back against the plank, and let the dark do its work. Not crying, not shaking, just settling weight into bone. War teaches you to accept pressure until you feel the shape of it, learn its edges, plan the break. That's all I was doing, mapping the load before the snap. Midnight, house lights off. I slipped in, lay on the couch. Upstairs floor creaked. She paced. 2 hours later she crept down. Thought I was sleeping. Paused behind the sofa. I kept breathing slow. She leaned close. I smelled that copper cologne residue. Her breath hitched, maybe words she didn't dare speak. After a minute she retreated, steps soft, stairs sighing. I opened my eyes to the ceiling's faint outline. The quiet felt dense, fertile, like soil ready for seeds of something ruthless. I knew the moment of seeing them, seeing proof, seeing the test, was behind me now. Clarity achieved. The next part would be motion, consequence. But for this single stretch of hours the house held its breath, and so did I, a soldier on night watch, steady finger on the trigger, waiting for dawn to paint targets clean. I filed the papers on a Monday before sunrise. County clerk's office opens at 8, but if you find the janitor, he'll take a sealed packet and timestamp it while the floor polish dries. 2 copies. Petition for divorce. Petition for full equitable distribution citing fraud. Motion to freeze joint accounts. Nick drafted every line. I only had to sign. My hand didn't shake. I thanked the janitor, tipped him a coffee. He nodded like men do when they see another man carrying something heavy in private and know enough not to ask. Outside, frost glazed the asphalt. I scraped the windshield slow, breath clouding. The world looked clean under that skin of ice, like nothing bad had happened yet. I drove home on side roads, radio off, engine noise the only sound. When I pulled into the driveway, her SUV was gone. Trainer session marked on the kitchen calendar in pink ink. Good. Gave me the hour I needed. I stepped inside, went straight to the desk in the den. Took the small safe I'd bolted to the joist after deployment, spun the combination. Inside, thumb drives, bank statements, the DNA report, printed photos, the walkie recording burned to CD because some things deserve old media. I laid everything on the dining room table, neat rows like evidence tags at a crime scene briefing. Then I set up the little digital projector Josh left from a group project freshman year, pointed it at the blank living room wall. At 9:20 the garage door hit its end stop. I stayed in the chair, hands folded. She came in flushed, hair damp, hoodie zipped high. Saw the table first. Paper, discs, photographs, stopped mid-stride. Color drained. Jack, what is this? Voice quivered on the edges but still tried for firm. I clicked the projector remote. The wall lit. Her locker photo, bray folded like a bow. Next slide. Motel parking lot, her mouth on Russ's neck. Slide 3. Bank transfers to FITLIFE LLC, highlighted. Slide 4. The DNA probability line in bold red. I let each image breathe 5 seconds. No commentary, just the tick of the slide advance. Her knees bent, hand on the chair back. Where did you? She didn't finish. I hit play on the stereo. Her own laugh spilled into the room, tinny but clear. PTSD payday. Russ's chuckle followed, lazy, confident. The audio ran 30 seconds. Silence after felt loud. She pressed both palms to her ears like that could shove the words back inside. I stood slow. You asked for communication. I said, this is my side. Voice came out calm, almost gentle, the way I'd brief rookies about the blast radius of an IED. She looked up, tears flooding now. Jack, please, let me explain. She took a step. I raised a hand. The motion froze her. Amazing how a small gesture can feel like a drawn weapon when the ground has already vanished. I'm filing, I said. Accounts are locked. Court date is set for the 10th. She shook her head, hair sticking to wet cheeks. We can fix. I pointed at the DNA slide still on the wall. You broke it beyond fixing. She started talking fast. Love, mistakes, pressure, loneliness, words jumbled like brass casings on concrete. I let them fall, didn't bend to pick one up. When breath ran out, she sagged. "What about Josh?" she whispered. Hearing his name from her mouth scraped something raw. But the decision was made. I'm telling him tonight. He hears it from me, not from subpoenas. She closed her eyes, pain or calculation. I couldn't tell. Phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't answer. Buzzed again. "Russ?" I asked. She opened her eyes, shook her head like small denial could undo events. I walked to the breaker box, flipped the main. House dropped to silence. No fridge hum, no furnace fan, just heartbeat sounds. Perfect vacuum for clarity. In that dark, I said, "Take what you can carry in one trip. Leave the keys on the counter." My voice echoed off drywall. She tried one last plea. Sob thick. "I have nowhere, but even heat needs fuel." I was out. I relit the breakers, marched upstairs, packed a duffel for her. 2 days' clothes, toiletries, no jewelry. Carried it down, set it by the door. She realized then it was finished. Shoulders collapsed inward. She reached to touch my sleeve. I adjusted a fraction back. Not a flinch, just reposition. She nodded like she'd expected the recoil. Took the bag, walked out without closing the door. Engine turned over, back down the drive. Taillights dwindled. For the first time in 15 years, the house felt bigger than its walls. I sat at the table, stared at the empty chair across. Breathing slow through my nose until pulse settled. Checked watch. 10:06. I had another appointment. Russ answered his motel door right after the second knock. Eyes darting. Maybe Elaine warned him. Maybe his own guilt kept him restless. He opened wider when he saw no badge. "What do you want now?" Voice tried for tough, but landed on casual dread. I stepped in, shut the door with my heel, locked the latch. Room smelled of energy drink cans and stale fabric softener. Desk clutter. Protein tubs. Pre-workout powders. Stack of past due notices. I walked to the window, drew curtains for privacy, then faced him. "You keep cash?" I asked. He blinked. "Some." "All of it," I said. He hesitated. I tilted my head. Combat stare, the kind that reminds the other guy, "You've seen what's on the far side of fear." He opened the nightstand, pulled a bank envelope thick with 20s, slapped it tabletop. "Take it, just leave." I picked it up, thumbed the bills. 3 grand, give or take. Slid it into my jacket. "Sit," I said. He sat on the edge of the bed, muscles tensed. Sweat darkened his chest tattoo. I took out my phone, played the same recording. His face tightened, recognition punching hard. "Delete that," he said. I shook my head. "Insurance." Then I stepped forward, close enough his breath hitched. "You ever come near her again, we have another conversation. One you don't walk away from. I'm not a big man, but I've carried 50 cal ammo in 110-degree heat. There's a gravity in that history you don't have to wave around." He nodded once, too quick. I patted his shoulder, a gesture between friends and threats. "Change the plates, change the state, change your habits," I said, because I changed mine today. I left him staring at the closed door, envelope light in my pocket. Back in town, I visited the bank. Cashier counted the 20s, deposited to Josh's tuition account now solely in my name. I signed the slip, felt lighter. At 4 p.m., I called Josh, told him I needed video chat, not voice. His dorm wall appeared, soccer poster behind him. I didn't circle, laid out the facts, the test, the divorce. Told him none of it moved the ledger of love. Said he could take time to process, hate me, yell, whatever he needed. He rubbed his eyes, silent a long minute. Then he asked one question. "So who's my biological?" I said his mom could tell him. I had suspicions, not proof. Another pause. Longer. He sniffed, wiped sleeve across face, nodded. "You're still Dad," he said. "You always will be." Chest loosened in a way I hadn't expected. We agreed to meet next weekend. Call ended. I sat in that quiet and felt the first tremor of relief. Court happened fast. Elaine's lawyer tried for reconciliation mediation. My folder shut that down. Judge reviewed photos, recordings, finance logs, leaned back like he'd tasted something sour. Ruled marital misconduct, granted me primary residence, and the bulk of joint assets pending final settlement. She stood 2 tables away, hair pinned perfect, mascara fighting gravity. When the gavel fell, she swayed. Her lawyer steadied her. I walked out without looking back. Outside the courthouse, Eddie from the sheriff's office waited, said paperwork cleared. Russ's assault case probation violation flagged thanks to fresh complaints from another Jim. He'd be leaving the county in cuffs by nightfall. Eddie asked if I was satisfied. I said justice isn't satisfaction, just math. He scratched his jaw, gave me a ride-home grin, drove off. I texted Russ a photo of his truck being towed. Account balance screenshots, zeroed after gym owners sued for damages. Added 1 line. Start over somewhere far. Blocked the number. Done. Elaine tried calls first week, tearful voicemails, promises of rehab, therapy, God. I saved them, unplayed. Envelope arrived with her handwriting. I filed it unopened in the shed next to the recordings. Maybe someday I'll read. Not now. I replaced the mattress, painted the bedroom a color I like, deep green like pine at dusk, hauled her dresser to the dump, watched it crush under the compactor jaws. Noise sounded like applause. Week later I cleaned the shed, boxed tools, rewired the light. Took down the recorder, pulled the SD card, smashed it under my boot. Evidence served its purpose. Relics don't deserve shrines. Burned the spreadsheet printouts in a metal trash can, watched flames curl edges until white turned brittle black. Smoke drifted through rafters, slipped out the cracked roof like a final sigh. Monday lunchtime, I sat at the back booth of Moe's Diner, the one facing the whole room. Cindy, the waitress, topped my coffee, asked if I wanted the usual. I nodded. She lingered, tucked hair behind ear. You ever try the blackberry pie? She asked. I said not yet. She smiled, said she'd bring a slice on the house. Walked off with that sway women get when they know a man is looking but not staring. I tasted the coffee, felt the warmth settle in my chest without burning. Outside the window, traffic moved steady under clear October sky. No thunderheads, no sirens, just cars and people on errands. Normal life, which is its own kind of miracle. I thought about the house waiting, quiet rooms, patched walls, empty closet, a bed that smelled only of fresh paint and laundry soap. I wasn't happy, not exactly. Happiness is a peacetime luxury, but the war at home was over, and I'd pulled my own from the rubble. My son, my ground, enough money to keep the roof solid. The rest, rebuild as slow as I need. Cindy came back with the pie, steam rising through purple glaze. She set it down, asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime when her shift ended. I looked at the fork, looked at her, felt the corner of my mouth lift. Maybe, I said, one step at a time. She nodded, understanding more than the words gave away. She left me with the pie. I took the first bite, tart and sweet, crust flaky. Ate slow, tasted every layer. Outside, a gust lifted yellow leaves, spun them across the lot like kids at recess. I watched until they settled, finished my coffee, and felt the day move forward under its own clean power, carrying me along whether I was ready or not. The papers came back from the clerk, stamped final decree, on a gray Thursday that smelled like rain but never delivered. I set the envelope on the kitchen counter, poured a mug of coffee, black, and looked at it the way you look at the last box after a move. Nothing inside will surprise you, yet opening still costs. I didn't break the seal, just slid it into the junk drawer beside spare batteries and a tape measure. Let the steak keep its closure. I was working on my own. Days took a shape. Up at 5, jogged the mile loop, dew-soaking shoes, lungs burning clean. Quarry shift, Diesel tang in the air, jokes from the line crew. Twerk specks scribbled on my forearm. After work I drive the long way home past the reservoir, windows down, radio low. Water stays honest. It reflects exactly what stands above it. Some evenings I'd pull over, sit on the hood, watch carp ripple the surface, and pretend the world was that simple line. Sky, water, me. House sounded different without another set of footsteps. Floorboards still groaned, but the rhythm was off, like a song missing the backbeat. First week I caught myself listening for her car door, for a humming fridge during one of her late-night snack raids, then remembered all that had been hauled out with the rest of her life. I moved back into the master bedroom. Sheets crisp, mattress new. The silence wasn't empty. It had weight, like a blanket after fire, warm, but carrying the smell of smoke. Cindy started leaving extra napkins with my lunch at Moe's, handwriting on each. Try the chili, Friday music at 8, small notes that didn't ask, just offered. I'd tuck them in my wallet, no promises. One Tuesday she slid into the opposite booth during her break. "You always sit alone," she said, stirring cream into coffee. "Some folks like breathing room." She eyed me over the rim. "Some folks need a nudge." I let the corner of my mouth rise. We talked weather, her night classes, my busted knuckles, nothing heavy. When her shift ended, she walked out with me to the parking lot. Wind tugged her ponytail. She asked if I wanted to grab ice cream. The word yes felt foreign in my throat, but I tried it. We sat on a curb sharing a pint, spoons scraping cardboard, headlights washing us in brief halos as cars passed. Her laugh was easy, no edges. She didn't ask about Afghanistan, or Elaine, or court documents. Just told me a story about burning the diner's first attempt pecan pie. I listened and found the muscles in my shoulders unclenching by degrees. Weekends I tackled the house, replaced porch boards, patched drywall, sanded the spot where my fist had cracked the hallway months back. Paint hid the fracture, but I knew the line under the coat, reminder that even walls remember. I cleared the shed too. Took the folding chair, recorder scraps, empty beer cans, hauled them to the dump. On the drive back, truck bed empty, wind whistled through the stake holes. New sound for a new season. Josh came home mid-semester for a 3-day break. He stepped out of his Civic taller than I'd logged in memory. We hugged, no theatrics, just bone and breath. Inside, he scanned the rooms, taking stock of absences, her photos boxed, her fragrance erased. At dinner, steak on the grill, mashed potatoes. We talked classes, rent, the price of textbooks that never get opened. After plates were cleared, he asked, quiet, "You gonna be okay?" I shrugged. "Working on it." He stared into his soda, then said, "Mom called. Says she wants to explain." I cut that thought off with a small shake. "Someday, when you're ready. Don't let my anger rent space in your head." He nodded, eyes glassy but steady. Later we sat on the deck. Crickets sawed the darkness. He said he found a campus boxing club. I showed him how to wrap hands. Tension snug across the knuckles, a ritual that says pain has rules if you respect them. On his last night we drove to the reservoir with rods in the bed. Moon threw silver at the water. We cast lines, no bites, didn't care. He asked the question that had simmered since the DNA test. "If I'm not blood, do I still look like you?" I reeled an empty hook, thought a moment. "You look like the kid I raised. That's enough resemblance for me." He breathed out, long. We packed up near midnight, air crisp, frost whitening the grass. Back at the house he hugged me hard, called me dad like it was both word and oath. Elaine's presence faded but didn't vanish. Mail forwarded wrong once. Bank statement in her name showed a balance under $30. I slid it back in the envelope, scribbled return to sender. Felt nothing. A month later I spotted her and her mother outside the pharmacy. She looked thinner, hair pulled into a messy knot, eyes flicking over the pavement like she expected shapes to rise from shadows. She didn't see me. I drove on, hand steady. Russ never resurfaced. Eddie said he took a plea on the probation issue, relocated to Oklahoma. Distant thunderstorms belonged to someone else. Winter set in early. I chopped wood evenings, stacked logs neat, rhythm echoing in the dead air. Some nights memories crept. Night patrol sand grinding teeth, smell of her perfume and copper, the tremor when the ledger tipped. I'd let the images play until they spent themselves, then breathe into the cold porch air until pulse steadied. Therapist at the VA called it exposure. I called it keeping watch. By December, Cindy and I had a pattern. Thursday coffee after her shift, occasional Sunday matinee movie where we'd sit in the back row, share popcorn, shoulders brushing. Nothing labeled, no future tense. We both carried pasts that didn't like being rushed. Christmas Eve she dropped by with a tin of the diner's ginger snaps. We drank hot chocolate in the kitchen, steam-fighting windows. She saw the tree, small, tabletop, single string of lights, and smiled. First solo Christmas. Yeah. She reached out, adjusted a crooked ornament, shaped like a wrench Josh made in 3rd grade. Looks sturdy enough. She kissed my cheek, let it linger, then said she had early shift. I walked her to the truck, breath fog rolling between us. She squeezed my hand before climbing in. No promises, just warmth traded against the cold. New Year's Day, I woke before dawn. Habit, pulled on boots, stepped outside. Snow fell overnight, clean sheet over yard, tire ruts hidden. Sky pale, river of silent gray. I trudged to the fence, leaned on the post I'd replaced last year, listened to nothing and everything. House lights glowed behind me, my house, my ground. Not perfect, not settled, but intact. Back inside I brewed coffee, set 2 mugs out by instinct, then slid one back into the cupboard. Old reflexes die slow. I carried my mug to the living room. On the wall where the projector once threw her secrets, I'd hung a framed photo of the reservoir at sunset. Waterline straight, reflection true. I stood a minute, watching the frozen image of calm water, and felt my breathing fall into rhythm with the remembered ripple. Phone buzzed. Cindy's name. Happy New Year, stranger. Text read. Followed by, "Diner's slow, want company on your porch swing." I typed "doors open" and hit send. Snow kept falling, quiet as forgiveness. I set another mug to warm, found the blanket she'd left last time. Navy fleece smelling faintly of lavender detergent. Footsteps crunching on the drive announced her before the knock. I opened the door. She smiled, cheeks pink from cold, eyes steady. No need for words. I stepped aside, and she crossed the threshold into the warm. Later, we sat on the porch swing despite the chill, blanket across our laps, steam spiraling from cuffs. The yard lay under an unbroken layer of white. Fresh start, if a man believed in such things. She rested her head on my shoulder. Wind chimes tinkled somewhere out of sight. I felt the swing's chain creak, the wood boards under my boots, her slow breath sensing with mine. Winter air cut sharp inside my lungs, but the burn felt honest, like cold water after a long run. I thought of the last year, the desert, the betrayal, the courtroom echo, the hum of diesel under night sky. The line of events stretched behind me like tracks in sand already half erased by wind. Ahead was just this porch, this hour, snow still falling. I tightened the blanket edge round her shoulders. She sighed content, no demands. Inside, the clock chimed once for past. I let the note fade. Life doesn't square every account. Some columns stay open. Some losses never refill. But a man can stand where he is, feel the weight, and still let his lungs fill with the clean air of what's left. We rocked, slow, chains groaning a lullaby. Snow kept coming, covering footprints as fast as we made them, promising nothing, forgiving nothing, only offering a fresh surface for whatever came next. And in that hush between breaths, with the world white and waiting, I felt the steady thump of my own heart, still here, still willing, and decided that was enough to carry me into morning.